Hello out there. We're on the air. I think we're on the air. Can never usually tell for about the first 30 seconds here. It appears we are. It appears we're live. Good morning, everybody. Happy hump day. Happy hump day. Funny thing, we missed yesterday's show. I was on the road yesterday. But for the entire day, I thought yesterday was Wednesday. Whole day. Spent the whole day thinking yesterday was Wednesday. I even went so far as posting about it on NOSTR. I said happy hump day, everybody. And I also said my usual hump day thing, which is hopefully you get a hump in today. But it was not. It was, in fact, Tuesday. Today is Wednesday, so we'll say it again. We'll try it again. Happy hump day, everybody. Hopefully you get at least one hump in today. I see Crypto Heathen is over in the Zapdos streams. Yeah. Crypto Heathen says, we finally caught up to Jor. Johnny's here. Good morning, my friend. Chico in the van. It's Saturday every day. That's a pretty good way to live life, I would say. It's hard to beat a good Saturday anytime. Saturday mornings, pour some coffee, read a book, hang out in the sun. Although you would not believe how cold it is here in the prairies right now. I think it's 4 degrees. Let me double check this. I know in the wintertime we usually do our metrics for the weather as well, but it's 7 degrees here right now. Sunny. Yes, this morning it was 4 degrees. And I also turned the heat on this morning. The heat. So it's June. It's past the middle of June. Pretty much we're getting to the longest day of the year here in a couple days. And I had to turn the furnace on this morning. Meanwhile, we're paying not 1 carbon tax, not 2 carbon taxes. I think we're paying 3 carbon taxes here to block the carbon, block the heat. I don't know. Need some Bitcoin miners in this house to warm me up. Okay, well, we got a special show today. I'm telling you right now. I mentioned this kind of briefly on the show last week, but we got an exciting part of the show today. First, let's get to this guy. I ended a 15-year relationship yesterday. See you later, Arnie. I ended a 15-year relationship yesterday with Apple. I got my new phone. Samsung S24. Pretty pimp. My first reaction with it, kind of weird, pretty different. It's gonna take some getting used to for sure, but pretty cool. I actually downloaded the application called Amethyst, which I've been hearing about for a very long time now from the NOSTR community. So I finally got it downloaded for the mobile version, and it is the cat's ass of NOSTR clients. So if you're an Android user and you're not using Amethyst, make sure that's the first thing that you do today is get that, plug your private key into there. And I don't know, it's pretty cool. I've also been using the very first version of Damus for about the last couple months, or since I got it actually a year ago. So my bar was pretty low, but at the same time, I was pretty impressed with Amethyst. I see Silver Fox over in the Zapdos stream and Letha. Good morning. And a couple more in there. I got a challenge for everybody today. And that challenge is, I know that there's a lot of people. This show probably gets, I'd say, between 60 to 80 people on the live shows between YouTube, Zapdos stream, Twitter, probably 60 to 80 people every day, which is pretty good. Very good, actually. So what I'm asking, though, is the people who aren't here, the people who are maybe here in the chat, don't want to speak up in the chat. That's okay. I get it. I'm not a real active chatter myself when I watch live streams. But at the same time, my challenge for you today is if you are somebody who's been watching the show, enjoying the show, I want you to send me an email today. Just send me an email, 88sats@proton.me. Let me know you've been watching. Let me know where you're from. Let me know what kind of content you like. And hopefully I can tailor a little bit more to you because I never hear from you. So that could be somebody who watches the recorded shows every day. That could be somebody who listens to the Fountain shows every day. Whatever that may be, just shoot me an email, 88sats@proton.me. And let me know. Let me know where you're from. And what else did I say there? I don't know. What kind of content you like? What do you want to hear? Because we do a live show every day. You know, I can only talk about so many things for so long. Somehow we're still doing it though. Sachi, good morning, my friend. Red Rider. Samsung is great. I've always loved Samsung. Every product I've ever had. They're kind of like the Honda of electronics for me for some reason. But I've always had an Apple, and it's going to be an adjustment, I think, to get out of my group chats that I've been in for 20 years. But I have a plan. I'm gonna get a different phone number. Silent link. Happy Juneteenth. Yeah, I don't know what that means either. I always see it, but I didn't really understand what that means. Sachi says, good man, Android is the only way. Once you realize how far Android is over Apple, you will wonder what the F I was doing with my life, drinking the Apple Kool-Aid. That's what it is, really. Apple kind of gets you with their really good marketing, very simple, very easy to use things, and then they kind of trap you in forever. So I busted out of that. I know that I'm going to take some flack from my friends and family about it. My brother called me almost instantly, and he wasn't happy about it. My financial friend. Hey man, do you ever talk about your background? Sometimes. What do you want to know in specific? I got a lot of things to talk about in my background. I've probably had about 20 different jobs in my short life so far. I've kind of been working since I was like, I don't know. I wouldn't really call it work. I helped out on my grandpa's farm for a lot of summers, but it was more like me watching him eat breakfast and getting paid to do it. So we did some work, obviously, but it wasn't too hard of work. And then you get a job as like a shagger at the driving range, the golf course. But in terms of like my actual background, I was a CPA. So I was a chartered professional accountant here in Canada. I worked at a big financial firm for just about 10 years until 2021. And kind of in the background during that, I started building our golf company called King Golf, K&G Golf. And so I was doing that in the mornings. I was doing that at night, because once you get through the CPA program, that program itself is very difficult on a person, because what you're doing there is for about 2 years, you're going to work every day, 9 to 5 or more during tax season. And then you're going home at night and studying for at least 3-4 hours just to keep up with your modules for 2 years. And every 3 or 4 months, there's a big exam that you got to study for. And so you're working and going to school pretty much every second of your day for 2 years. And so when that ended, I kind of had a void there. And so I started doing a few different things, but I got into King Golf stuff. And so we started our golf company, I think it was 2019. And so I was doing that in the mornings and at nights while going to work. And then during the pandemic, I wasn't allowed to go into the office. So I loved the place I was working at. I loved the people there, but it wasn't the same when I was kind of isolated in my office doing accounting stuff and tax stuff. So that's why I left, and I haven't looked back. I haven't spent one single day regretting that. So other than that, I don't know what else you wouldn't want to know about me. My life's, when you're working as accountants, there's not a whole lot going on. Red Rider BB gun. What is Amethyst? It's a NOSTR client. So you can actually, if you have a Samsung or an Android, I don't know what an Android is actually. I think it's a software or whatever. But if you use the Android, you can get Amethyst from the Google Play Store. It's pretty badass. Plant-based hippie. Good morning. Mary Ju Lember. Ninju. Good morning. And Lucas is here too. Okay. Well, we got, look at this. We got the 2024 US Open pool, the Bitcoin pool champion in the house this morning. We got Mav, 4.2 thousand sats, 4,200 sats. Good morning. Thank you, my friend. Big shout out to Mav. You won 210,000 sats for winning the golf pool. 210,000 sats. I gotta send him that this morning. Actually, I'll add it to my list here. Send Mav the sats. And shout out to Microdose BTC as well for the Zap 21 sats. I see Craig is over there as well, and Vegan Bitcoiner. Silver Fox says, I'm stuck with Apple and never had the guts to move over. It was very hard for me to do. And even walking into the store, I had about 10 minutes of questions for the guy before I could make up my mind. But I'm glad I did it because I was feeling the same way. I was like, I want to make the switch. I just don't have the balls to do it. But yesterday I found some. If you look hard enough, you can always find them down there. Speaking of winning sats, I got something for you guys today. You guys are going to love this. So let's get to this right now. We got a new sponsor on the show. So I'm going to get to the metrics here, and then we're going to talk about it. So let's get this fired up. We took yesterday off, and usually when you take a day off of like Bitcoin news and stuff, it's exciting because then you get to catch up on 2 full days of Bitcoin news. But I looked on Twitter today. I looked on Discord. I looked at a few different places. There's really not a whole lot going on right now in Bitcoin. So our Bitcoin news today is going to be lacking a little bit, but that's okay. We got the metrics here. So the metrics is sponsored by Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the new sponsor of the metrics, and we're going to play a fun little game every single morning here on the show where somebody's going to win some sats. So let's talk about this. So we're currently sitting at block height 848.629, 632 now. And Pool's cleaning up the blocks once again today. Fees are pretty low though. We got 18 sats per VByte this morning. Pretty average, I would say. No issues high or low there. The price still going down and down and down. Somehow, some way, it's going down. $65,215 US dollars. But it sounded like to me that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy raised all their debt. They're just waiting for the, I guess, enough Bitcoin to be available. I think they got 700 mil going into Bitcoin today or tomorrow. So I expect that price to go up a little bit. $65,215 US dollars. The price 1 year ago today, keep this in mind, 26,000. So if you're feeling down on yourself, if you're feeling down, the price is only 65,000 bucks. Last year on this day, June 19, 2023, it was 26,000. 4 years ago today, imagine this. You could have got one Bitcoin for 9,300 and $1 US dollar. US dollars. But this is where it gets interesting here. This is where it gets interesting. The Moscow time, which is the equivalent. If you had $1 US dollar in your pocket, how many sats could you get for that? Today it is 1,535 US dollars. The price here in Canada today is 89,303 Canadian Monopoly dollars. And the Moose Jaw time, which is the Canadian equivalent of Moscow time, if you have one loonie in your pocket, you can get 1,100. That's not right. I didn't update it, or did I? I should have, because this is the most important part of the show here with our new sponsor. 1120. So we're 12 sats off. Still, either way, it's the deal of a lifetime. So let's update that to be 1120. Okay, so get ready, everybody. Get your phones out here. You're going to need it. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why in a second here. Sorry, I don't mean to be teasing you. I'm just trying to keep up with the chat here. Mav says Apple does a great job of sucking you in and not letting you out. It's true. It's true. Craig says my Zap's still not showing up. Thought Kieran sorted it out. Let's check. I trust Craig. 420 sats, Arnie Insurance. I'm thinking that's from Craig. So thank you for that, Craig. 420 sats. And Phoenix Falconer says, your persistence is making me bullish. Don't stop. There you go. There you go. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And Rebel with a Cause, that's a great name, over on Zap.stream, Zap 21 sats, and said, next step, Graphene OS. Somebody said that yesterday. Somebody said the first thing I should be doing with my new phone is getting Graphene OS. I'm just not really there yet. I think that'll be a transition for me as well. I gotta take this slow. Just like within Bitcoin. You don't want to be taking things too fast. So we got the Android, we hopped out of the Apple world. Next will be Graphene OS. Can you guys believe this though? I opened up my phone yesterday, and this actually gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about this. But I opened up my phone yesterday, and one of the apps, you know how all the phones have like preloaded apps that come on the phones? One of the apps was the 17 global goals from the World Economic Forum, I think it's a UN, United Nations program, but the 17 sustainable global goals, that was an app on my phone. Just like when Apple threw the U2 album on everybody's phone, these guys are shoving this shit down people's throats. So the 17 global goals app was the first one to be, that was the first thing I did. I took a picture of Arnie, and then I deleted the global goals, the World Economic Forum app on my phone. Uninstalled very fast. I uninstalled that one and the news before I did anything else. Harvey says, hey man, this is my first stream I've joined. Your story was interesting to me as I'm 22 and trying to decide what kind of career I should go for. Okay, well, let's put this on the back burner for a sec, Harvey. Great name, by the way. Harvey's a great name. Okay, so let's do this. This is the Moose Jaw time. Bitcoin Well is the new sponsor of the metrics, because with that, what you're doing, you're converting your dollars into Bitcoin, and that's exactly what Bitcoin Well can help you with. So with Bitcoin Well, let me get the info up here. Bitcoin Well, I don't know if you've heard them before. They're a Canadian and an American exchange. So if you're in Canada or in the US, I want you to take some initiative today, and I want you to set up an account with Bitcoin Well. So they're a non-custodial Bitcoin platform in Canada and the US, which means that every single Satoshi that you buy, you exchange on there, goes straight into your self-custody. They offer free withdrawals and a very simple 1% spread. And they have a Bitcoin wishing well where you can win up to 1 million sats per spin. So we're actually going to do that right now. And I've been chatting back and forth with Adam. I don't know if he's in the chat or not today, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to play this game every single morning after the metrics. We're going to toss a coin into the wishing well, and there's going to be a QR code that displays on the screen. So I'm going to give you a couple seconds here to get ready for it. There's going to be one winner. The first person that scans the QR code is going to get the sats. And I'm not going to really tell you how to do it or not, I don't think. Hopefully somebody gets it right away. But the cool thing here is they actually set up a new link for the show here. And so if you sign up today or any day, but let's do it today. Let's show Adam some support for the Bitcoin Well. So you sign up for an account if you're in Canada or the US, and you instantly get 5 coin tosses into the wishing well. And every time you throw a coin in there, you're going to get between 500 sats and 1 million sats. So just for using, you go to bitcoinwell.com. Don't do it right now because you want to be part of the game here. But after the show today, go to bitcoinwell.com/Jor. Very simple. bitcoinwell.com/Jor. And for that, you're going to get 5 free coin tosses into the wishing well for sats. So that's our initiative for today. We're going to play the game right here, right now. Oh, it signed me out. I knew this was going to happen. That's okay. I'm gonna have this password memorized for sure if we're gonna have to do this before every game. So everybody understand the rules here. We're gonna toss a coin into the wishing well. I'm gonna do it on your behalf. And the first person who scans it with the QR code or scans the QR code and claims the sats is gonna be the victor. So let's bring this up here. It's exciting. All right. Is it exciting or am I just a nerd? So here we go. Get your phones ready. This is the inaugural coin toss into the Bitcoin wishing well. Here we go. Oh, okay. We can see it good. I should have made sure. So there it goes into the well. What do we win? 500 sats. So the first person to scan that and claim the sats is going to win 500 sats today, courtesy of Bitcoin Well. So I'll leave that up for a couple minutes or a couple seconds, I guess. I'm guessing somebody has already claimed it. But here's the thing. If you win it, you don't have to say anything. You can throw out some cheers or whatever you want to do, but you don't have to, because it's up to you. It's a free world. Everything is voluntary. So big shout out to Bitcoin Well for being our newest sponsor here in the show. Very much appreciated. Adam is also a golfer. So we've been chatting a little bit about playing golf, possibly for the Bitcoin Golf Tour this summer out in Alberta together. And he might be one of the celebrity guests on the Bitcoin Golf Tour this summer. So hopefully somebody has claimed this. I'm going to just double check, because if nobody's claimed yet, I'm going to claim it. Error. So it's already been withdrawn. Oh, Sachi got it. There we go. Congrats, Sachi, for the very first Bitcoin wishing well toss. We're going to do that every day, every single day. We're going to do the metrics, which is sponsored by Bitcoin Well. And somebody on the show is going to win between 500 and 1 million sats every day. So a little bit more incentive, I guess. If you're somebody who watches the recorded version, maybe you'll stop by one morning if you got some time, every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Beautiful. All right. Sorry, I'm just checking on things here. Micro says only for Canada and US. Yes. I don't know if they have any plans to expand globally or not. I haven't got into that with Adam yet, but they are in Canada and the US right now, which is pretty good, because a lot of the exchanges here in Canada are only for Canada. So there you go. Sachi got it. Ninju says, can you explain again? Sure. Maybe we'll do another one. We'll do a bonus one today, just because it's the first show. So we're going to do another wishing well toss here, because we're taking some days off here at the end of June. So we're not going to be able to meet our budget for the Bitcoin Well coin tosses. So let's do this again. Let's do another coin toss. Get your phones ready. So basically what's going to happen here is I'm going to click the redeem button. I'm going to toss a coin into the wishing well. It's going to tell us how many sats that we won. And then the first person to scan this QR code and redeem those sats are going to win. So we're going to do it again here. I hope Adam's okay with this, doing 2-in-1 show. I figure it's a good kickoff for the show today. So here we go. We're going to redeem another one. Get your phones ready. Here it goes. Tossed into the Bitcoin wishing well. What do we win? If it ever 500 again. So the first person to scan that is going to get 500 sats. I can't wait for the day when that pops up 1 million sats. That's going to be fucking wild. So I'll maybe just keep my Phoenix wallet here loaded up, just so we know when we can end it. Whoa. Oh, that was June 17th. Scared myself. I thought I accidentally redeemed it there, but that was from the other day. 500 sats. Okay, well, let's move on here. Let's keep things rolling here. I'll just double check that this hasn't been claimed or has been claimed already. Yeah. So we got another one. Johnny says, how do I scan a QR code while listening on my phone? I'm not sure. That's a good question. I really don't have an answer to that. So you might just have to, I don't know. I apologize for that, because I was wondering the same for myself. I think some people watch it on their desktop computers. I don't know. So there we go. That one's been redeemed as well. All right. That was fun. Red Rider says, what a cool daily contest. I agree. I think that there's a lot of different Bitcoin shows out there with a lot of different ads. And you kind of just get tired of hearing the same thing over and over again. And to me, this is just my opinion. And this is why I think this sponsorship is going to work so well between Bitcoin Well and Bitcoin Journey. Because when you're watching a show and somebody is, saying a sponsor or an ad or whatever, you don't really get anything for it. The person who's saying that, person with the show, I mean, they're showing up every day doing the shows. They should get some value for that. But at the same time, the audience doesn't really get anything out of it. They just get some stuff jammed down their throat in a way, I guess. But in this one, it's actually the audience who's benefiting from it. So I thought that this was a really cool initiative and idea from Bitcoin Well. Also, let me log out here. Also, when you go to, this is actually how this whole thing started. So when you go to Bitcoin Well, you go to bitcoinwell.com/Jor. That's how you get the 5 free tosses. That's how you use the referral link there. But if you go to create an account, look what it says there. Start your Bitcoin journey. And so I went to Bitcoin Well one day and I saw that and I tweeted a match made in heaven. And Adam liked it. This is kind of how business happens in 2024. I tweeted it and then I sent him a DM just checking in, letting him know what we're all about. And then a couple of days later, sponsor the show. Oh, Saji got 2. Okay, so just because I don't want Sachi to be winning this every day. I mean, if he does, good on him. But at the same time, what you have to do there is you go into your Phoenix wallet or your wallet of Satoshi, some sort of Lightning wallet. And you're going to actually go, instead of going to receive, you're actually going to go to send, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But you actually you have to press send because you need to scan the QR code. And then it's going to pop up and say, do you want to redeem these 500 sats? You click yes, and then those sats are yours. So it's a little bit confusing, I think, and I probably should have said this before we did it, but for the future, you actually have to click send, which doesn't make any sense, but that's the way it is. A lot of things in life don't make sense, right? Okay, I see Crypto Ethan over here with a big fatty zap. Let's see what he's got to say. So Crypto Ethan zapped 4.2 thousand sats, 4,200 sats, and says, shameless plug for Devour Go. With their nationwide rollout, you can now pay with Bitcoin or a shitcoin of your choice for delivery at over 50,000 restaurants across the US. Get $10 off your first 3 orders at his link there. So Devour is actually one of the companies that our venture capital fund, the one that me and Crypto Heathen are a part of, they've invested in. So we have a little bit of skin in the game there. We should mention that off the hop here. We're passive owners in Devour Go, but it's basically like Uber Eats, except you can pay with cryptos, Bitcoin or altcoins, preferably altcoins, because you don't want to be spending your Bitcoin on food. But so you can pay with cryptos, Bitcoin, altcoins, and you actually earn different points and rewards within the app there. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of the same idea as Uber Eats and Skip the Dishes here in Canada. Chico in Advance says, does this work in America? Yes. I think that QR code would work regardless of where you are. You can only get a Bitcoin Well account if you're in Canada or the US. But to redeem those sats every day, you can be from wherever, as long as you get a smartphone. So if you're interested in signing up for Devour, I think you have to be an American to take advantage of that so far, but you can go to Crypto Heathen's link there. Rebel with the Cause says, happy for you getting the sponsor, but the words sign up are a red flag for me. How come? How else do you join things? I don't know. I mean, I have no issues. I'm going to be very careful, and I know everybody says this, but you have to be very careful with the sponsors that you work with on here. And a Canadian guy, Adam, I think he's a very early Bitcoiner, so he's been around the block a couple times. And the thing I like about Bitcoin Well is that it's available in Canada and the US, which is the majority of my audience here, for one. But the other part too is that they're Bitcoin only, and I don't want to be working with other companies, sponsor wise anyways, that are dealing with altcoins and other casino coins. So do me a favor today, go to bitcoinwell.com/Jor, create an account there, get some free tosses into the wishing well and some free sats for it. You might win $1 million, who knows? Sachi says, hey, Jor, have you ever shown this site? It shows the Bitcoin buy spreads in real time across Canadian exchanges. Good resources to check before you buy. That's something that a lot of Bitcoiners, I think, aren't quite aware of, especially newer Bitcoiners. And I've been guilty of this for sure myself. I used Binance for like the first year of my Bitcoin journey. But when you're buying Bitcoin, even though it's a free withdrawal, the way that these exchanges are making their money is a spread. So if the exchange price of Bitcoin is $69,000, then the exchange will maybe charge you $70,000 or $71,000 for it, and they keep the spread there. That's how they make their money. Same with selling it. So if the price is $69,000, they would buy it from you at $68,000. That's kind of how the spread works there. But I like the fact that Bitcoin Well does a very simple 1% spread, transparent and simple. Anytime you're dealing with financial advisors or exchanges, whatever that may be, you always want it to be very transparent and very simple. Oh, Microdose says, I tried with Wallet Satoshi on the first one, and the first time said I don't have enough funds. That's interesting. I don't know how that could work. Anyways, the idea with the sats is really good. I agree. I love that the new sponsor there, because it feels to me like the audience is actually getting something from it versus me just shoving things down your throat. All right, let's get back to this question here. What's Arn doing? Hey, bud. There's Arnie. Oh, his face was covered. Anyways, Harvey says, this is the first stream I've joined. Your story is interesting to me as I'm 21 and trying to decide what kind of career I should go for. So if you're 22 years old right now, you're in one heck of a pickle. One heck of a pickle. And the first thing I would say is, no matter what you're doing, no matter what ways you decide to earn money, a portion of every single dollar you take in right now should be going into Bitcoin. Because if you're 40, 50, 60, you probably built up enough capital when things were good in the world that you should be fine. You might have to work a little bit longer, but you're probably going to have enough capital that you can live your life with, buy a house with, start a family with, in fiat. If you're 22, you're not going to have that luxury. You're not. You could work 24 hours a day for the next 10 years and you probably still wouldn't be able to buy a house here in Canada, which is incredibly sad, but it's the reality of things. So what you need to do is you need to just switch your mindset a little bit in terms of not trying to save for a down payment, but actually trying to get as much Bitcoin as you can. And just sit on that Bitcoin. You're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to work hard. But at the end of that, if you see it through and you're patient enough with that whole thing, you're going to be very much rewarded for that. So the first thing there is just focus more on Bitcoin. Don't worry about making a whole bunch of money. Don't worry about buying dumb shit. Have some fun. Obviously, you're 22 years old, but every single dollar that you take in, you could be cutting grass. You could be delivering pizzas. You could be delivering for Devour Go. But every single dollar that you take in, make sure a portion of that, a high one, hopefully, but hopefully that goes into Bitcoin. The second thing there is that whatever you think you should do, probably do the opposite of that. So if you're kind of had the idea of going to school, getting into a whole bunch of student debt, not having a job when you can get out of there, The jobs that exist today aren't going to exist in 10 years from now. So when you're kind of at the prime of your life, I'd say 30 to 40 in terms of your career wise, like not so much financially, but like moving up or whatever. I'd say 30 to 40 is kind of when you really want to be making hay in your life. So you have 10 years to set yourself up for that. So don't get into debt. Don't go to school. It's a complete waste of time because everything that they're training you for in school is for the world 20 years ago, not 20 years ahead or even 10 years ahead. So avoid like the law stuff, avoid accounting stuff, avoid anything financial wise, out the door. If you're going to be like a plumber or electrician, then definitely go to school for that because you need to. So I'd either say go for a trade like that, electrician, plumber, carpenter, do a trade like that, or just start your own business. You could spend a couple days or a couple weeks just looking for business ideas online, figure out which one you could be best at, and then just do it. Don't take out any debt. Don't get into a whole bunch of trouble financially. Become cash flow positive and put a portion of that into Bitcoin. Every dollar that you take in, make sure a percentage of that goes into Bitcoin because the rest is going to be gone. When you need that money, the rest is going to be gone. And you're never going to get ahead in the fiat world right now as a 22-year-old. Never. You could say, like I said, you could work your ass off 24 hours a day and you'd never get ahead in the fiat world right now. Sorry, Daddy-O, I missed here. Good morning. Been on vacation all week. Just left the range. Got some morning swings in. That's perfect. Perfect way to spend Wednesday morning. Django, good morning, my friend. Okay, where did I miss here? Rick Costa says, have you smashed the like yet? Great question. Looks like a lot have, so thank you. 20 likes so far today. And quite a few zaps too for the paninis in Venice. What does this say? Can you write the referral? Can someone write it? Oh yeah, it's just bitcoin.com/Jor, Jor. I can put it in the chat here. Just give me a sec. So that's what I would say to that, Harvey. Don't just be patient. Just understand the fact that you've kind of got the shit end of the stick in a lot of ways in terms of the fiat world, but you have such a huge opportunity if you do it right with Bitcoin. Because you have one thing, if you got a 22-year-old and a 62-year-old in the same, you're looking at both, one has a lot of capital built up and they can easily exchange that for Bitcoin right now. They could get ahead. The 22-year-old, they have something that the 62-year-old doesn't have there, which is time. And time in Bitcoin is the most important thing that you can have. Every cycle, your Bitcoin becomes more and more valuable. Did that work? There we go. Craig says, Jor, I see the 20-year-old needs to work hard, live below their means, save a high percent, ideally 30 to 50%, and DCA into Bitcoin. Then that person can take the piss after 30 and never save a penny, assuming they haul. I agree with that. Like it's such a rare opportunity right now for young kids. And unfortunately, as I was doing when I was 22 years old, they're just kind of sleeping on this thing. There are going to be some very wealthy 22-year-olds formed from this time in history. It's just, to me, I think I put this in our group chat yesterday, but I said, like it's such an incredible time to be alive right now in Bitcoin. Everywhere you look, on YouTube, on the news, everywhere, every piece of news right now is positive for Bitcoin. And there's just such a small amount of people who actually own Bitcoin, and an even smaller amount of people who actually understand Bitcoin and are going to have the conviction to hold when this thing goes to $200,000 sometime this year or next year, whenever. The prices are whatever, but it's a very unique time to be alive right now. You should be very grateful that you were born right now, even though there's a lot of shit happening in the world. And you can, if you look at it through that lens, it's a very dark world. But at the same time, if you look further out, there's a big orange horizon there. And you just have to be patient with it. Chico in the van says, just apprentice or become an intern in what you're interested in. YouTube is the new school. Agreed. And somebody asked me earlier in the show about my background, and I say it all the time. I learned more in the last 4 years of Bitcoin than I learned in my college, university, and CPA program combined from YouTube and other avenues on similar to YouTube, like Patreon account. If you find somebody that you like and you trust them and they have good information on there, paying $5 or $10 a month is the best. And I was paying a guy $80 a month for a while because I was really interested in what he was talking about. And I considered it an investment in myself. $80 is pretty aggressive per month, but I think it's worth it. Emily says, my financial friend is a scammer. Is he your friend then? Why are you friends with him? And Craig says, in other words, it's the first 10 years that count most due to the time value of Bitcoin. Yes. Absolutely true. Okay, well, this show today was titled The Demand for Bitcoin. And I want to show a quick clip here of our friend Ricky from the Trailer Park Boys. If you're a Canadian, you're going to understand this. If you're not, you might think that we're batshit crazy. So this video is called Supply and Command. And if you are a Trailer Park Boys fan, or if you've heard of Trailer Park Boys before, the Ricky, the main character here, he's notorious for mixing up phrases, like saying the wrong things. So this was his attempt at supply and demand.
I've been helping out at training school with this junior achievers thing, which is awesome because it helps the kids get their thinking clearer about business, and it's fucking great. I've been learning a lot too. It's amazing how much of it applicates to what me and Julian do. Profit counting, supply and command, all that shit. You know, it's the same whether you're breaking the law or not, as far as I'm concerned. I've been helping out at training school with this junior achievers thing, which is awesome because it helps the kids get their thinking clearer about business, and it's fucking great. I've been learning a lot too. It's amazing how much of it applicates to what me and Julian do. Profit counting, supply and command, all that shit. You know, it's the same whether you're breaking the law or not, as far as I'm concerned. I've been helping out at training school with this junior achiever.
Supply and command. If you have a chance, and you have some time and you're a TV show fan, try to find Trailer Park Boys. In my opinion, it's the best TV series that's ever been made. And it's full of stuff like that, supply and command. So I wanted to start the segment here with Ricky, supply and command. But I'm going to show a clip here from Michael Saylor's chat. And I hope you had some time to watch this today or this week. I think this was from Prague. And there was a few people from the community here who are actually in attendance for this presentation. So I'm going to show this part of it. Oh, we don't need any more Ricky here. I'm going to show part of this speech from Michael Saylor in regards to the demand for Bitcoin. So we're going to watch this. It's about 2 or 3 minutes long, and then we're going to talk about demand. Sorry, I can't see who this app is from here. I got to refresh it. Praven, our friend Praven from usually in the YouTube chat, but here in Zap.stream today. Nice to be here this early in Bitcoin. 69 sats. Thank you. Okay, let's listen to Michael Saylor. I hope everybody had a chance to watch this. If you haven't yet, it's definitely worth your time. But this is the part about the demand for Bitcoin.
We don't need to be against the other thing. At the end of the day, 99% of all the wealth in the world is going to be in something other than the currency, and half of it will probably be in Bitcoin. Let's just be for it. Bitcoin's for everybody. Rule number 15. It's for the people you don't like. It's for the, the AI bot that took your job is going to run on Bitcoin. You'll be mad about the fact that the robo-taxi took your job or the robot took your job, but you should be happy about the fact that the robo-taxi that took your job runs on Bitcoin and wanted to buy your Bitcoin and drove up the price of your Bitcoin by a factor of 10 or 100 or 1,000, right? Your enemy is going to buy Bitcoin. The people that launch the ETF and buy the ETF that you don't agree with, that come from a place you don't like, they're going to drive up the value of your Bitcoin by a factor of 1,000. And you don't have to like them, and you don't have to embrace their ideology. What you should realize is the more people that join the Bitcoin system, whether they're your friend, your enemy, the religion you love, the religion you don't care for, the country that you're at odds with, they're all helping Bitcoin. And if you are true to Bitcoin, they'll be helping you. Rule number 16, learn to think in Bitcoin. I see a lot of people that the whole Bitcoin, and they still don't think in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been going up 50% a year for the past 4 years. That means the risk-free rate, the cost of capital is 50%. So you have the option to borrow money at 5%, loan it to Bitcoin at 50%, and keep the 45% difference. And I'll meet Bitcoin business.
Oops, I'm muted. Oops, I cut that off a little bit early. But that's okay. We got through the point that I wanted to get to there. He's talking about the future here and what's coming here in Bitcoin in terms of the demand and people's opinions on the demand. So everybody's heard the phrase Bitcoin is for your enemies. You hear it and it doesn't really mean much probably to a lot of people, but it's true. We want as many people as possible to be in Bitcoin. The ETFs, the BlackRocks, the Teslas, the robo taxis, whoever. Every single person who joins Bitcoin, who joins the Bitcoin network, buys Bitcoin, opens up a wallet, every single person, every single entity is going to make your Bitcoin more valuable because it's a network. Every single person here is just a node in that network. And then the more nodes there are, the secure it is and the more valuable it becomes. So I would say, I'm going to open up the spreadsheet here that I have because I made a list here and I thought about this on my way home yesterday. I was coming up with a bunch of things that I thought would impact demand because I say this all the time, but I call Bitcoin the greatest economic recipe in history. And the reason for that is because if you understand supply and demand, or as Ricky says, supply and command, it's pretty important. And I did minor in economics, and that's one thing I took away from my whole time in school was the supply and demand. Because when you have demand going up, supply usually follows it. And that's the case with every other asset on Earth, right? So if you got gold, if you got stocks, if you got new cars, whatever it is, if the Tesla Cybertruck sold really well, what would Tesla do? Make more of them. So demand usually goes up. If it's a good product or service, the demand will go up and the supply usually follows it. And once the supply catches up with the demand, that's when the price levels out and then starts falling again. But there's never been an asset like Bitcoin before with a fixed supply. Land, I would say, would be the closest to that. But regardless of how much demand goes up, you cannot change that bottom line. You cannot change the supply there. In fact, it's going down. Even though it's actually going to go up, I think that the net impact of the supply, available supply, will actually go down. Because as more and more people, when we go through this bull cycle here in the next 12, 16 months, the new people who are getting into Bitcoin aren't going to have the conviction, and they're not going to have the education to keep those coins. So there's going to be a whole bunch of new retail coming in this year. And I think that a lot of those Bitcoin will be lost. So even though we're creating new Bitcoin right now, I think the net impact of that, the supply, will actually go down. Grim says, I'm super late, but finally made the live. Didn't sleep past the alarm. Well, you missed, you should go back and watch the start of the show today because we had our very first Bitcoin wishing well contest today. And you're going to want to be here for that going forward. Harvey says, really appreciate the advice and you coming back to my chat message. This is an amazing community of like-minded people. That is true. That is true. Emma T says, I don't trust robotaxis. I think they will fail. I wouldn't bank on that. I wouldn't bank on that. I think there'll be both. I think there's going to be demand for both. There'll be people who will never take a robotaxi. There will be people who are more than happy to do it. So I think for a while here, probably the next 50 years, there's going to be some people living in that world and some people remaining in the old world. And I don't think it's until everybody from now kind of dies off that we go into that super robotic world. We got a lot of years though before that. So let's take a look at a few of these things. And I was honestly having a very hard time coming up with things that couldn't decrease the demand for Bitcoin. So it's easy just to think about the economics here, the supply and demand. But I think when you actually take a look at all the things that increase the demand for Bitcoin, this was just a few that I came up with. And I actually, while we're looking at these, I challenge you to come up with a few things and put them in the chat that would decrease the demand for Bitcoin. So what factors, what could possibly happen in the world that would decrease the demand while I'm talking about these? So we got the ETFs. January 2024, the Bitcoin world changed forever because we have the big capital here. We have the institutions. We have all this big money can now easily access Bitcoin with zero friction. So that increased the demand for Bitcoin. Inflation. Every time the government prints more money or adds more zeros to their debt balance, the demand for Bitcoin increases. Robotaxis. Not only robotaxis, but AI. AI will, as we've been talking about on the show, AI will use Bitcoin as the native currency of AI. And so if you want to use the AI, whether that's robotaxi or to do a book report for you, you're going to have to pay them in Bitcoin. Currency controls. I was listening to David Marcus, I think his name was. He's one of the founders of PayPal. He was on a Bitcoin show yesterday. He's been at Bitcoin since 2012. Very interesting interview with him. Consider checking that one out. It was on the Unchained Capital YouTube channel yesterday. David Marcus, I believe it was. But he was talking about currency controls. And when he was in PayPal, when he was working for PayPal, the government of Argentina reached out to PayPal and said, do not let any Argentina pesos leave Argentina. Cut that off. And so they did. And then they saw the next day, this was one of the light bulb moments for David, was that after that happened, the value of Bitcoin in Argentina skyrocketed. So you'd think that, the government's trying to control more would actually be a negative impact for Bitcoin. But in reality, when people see that, they want to buy Bitcoin. They want out of that currency that's controlling them. State pension funds. We've seen that the Wisconsin State Pension Fund was the first of many to hold Bitcoin. So that increases the demand for Bitcoin as other state pension funds and other organizations start seeing that. It opens their door and opens their mind to Bitcoin. Every time Trudeau sends some money over to Ukraine, the demand for Bitcoin increases because as that happened, he loses more and more of his citizens, their trust in him. So the demand for Bitcoin increases. Government overreach. I think that most people would assume that this would be a negative thing for Bitcoin. But as we just talked about with the currency controls there, when the governments are overstepping their boundaries, it pisses people off. It wakes people up to how corrupt these people are. And when that happens, their mind opens up to an alternative, and that alternative is Bitcoin. So that increases the demand for Bitcoin as well. Block, Jack Dorsey's company, they announced that they're going to be DCAing Bitcoin 10% of their gross profits every single month into Bitcoin. That increases the demand for Bitcoin. Semler Scientific, which is a very interesting stock I think people should be paying attention to if you're not yet. But Semler Scientific announced that they're holding Bitcoin on their treasury. Their long-term asset is going to be Bitcoin, or one of them. And their stock price skyrocketed. So as other public companies who are just kind of floundering right now, trying to stay above inflation in terms of their stock price, they look at Semler and they think, well, maybe we should take on that strategy. And there will be companies that do it or who are very successful, and there will be companies who do it that will fail miserably. And I think that one of the companies that fail are going to be DeFi Technologies here from Canada. They announced that they were also going to be buying Bitcoin, putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and their stock price went up. But if you actually look at their financials and their debt, I don't think that's a real great strategy for them at this point. It seems like they're just trying to be part of it to bump up their stock price. So they'll be exposed as more and more companies start adopting this strategy. There will be some successes and many failures. But either way, they're all going to be, the demand for Bitcoin is increasing. If you got a friendly government, like our friend Donald Trump, he met with some miners last week. He's been talking, very much embracing Bitcoin. So as people see that, the people who like Trump are going to maybe buy some Bitcoin, maybe open up a Bitcoin well account and buy some Bitcoin. So that's increasing the demand for Bitcoin. Unfriendly government. Joe Biden comes out and says, we don't like Bitcoin. Justin Trudeau comes out and says, we don't like Bitcoin. Do you think people's trust in government is going up or down in time here? Where do you think it's trending to right now? Trust in government. So when these people like Trudeau, like Biden, they say that they don't like Bitcoin, you shouldn't be holding Bitcoin. What are people going to do? We're going through this very quiet and peaceful revolution right now, where people are just saying, you know what, I'm done. Whatever. And the advice I gave on the show this week was, whatever your government tells you to do the exact opposite of that, and you're probably going to have success. So an unfriendly government, they're telling you don't buy Bitcoin. That also increases the demand for Bitcoin. The people who live like me and do the exact opposite of what their Trudeau's and Biden's tell them to do, that increases the demand for Bitcoin. The one I did come up with in terms of how could the demand for Bitcoin decrease is that if they start closing off the exchanges, and this could happen. This could happen. So in Canada here, if Trudeau decided that he didn't like what Bitcoin Well was doing and wanted to just shut them down, it wouldn't be easy to do, but it's definitely doable. So when that happens, if that happens, the demand for Bitcoin would go down in Canada because people would be afraid that their governments are going to start coming after their Bitcoin. So even though I think it would decrease in the short term, there would be Adam would just go somewhere else and launch a new company that does this exact same thing. So they can really only close off the on-ramps and close down the exchanges for so long. And you have to keep in mind here that Bitcoin is a global asset with global demand. And the government in Canada closing off the Bitcoin exchanges probably wouldn't have much of an impact on the overall demand of Bitcoin, because then probably the America demand would go up or Mexico demand would go up. When they see this happening, it would increase in other places. So the demand for Bitcoin and what's going to drive that demand, I think people should be paying a little bit closer attention to, because you think about all of these different increases in the demand here. And so I did a bit of just to have it on paper here so people can understand it a little bit clearer. So this is the demand. Let's say that there's 100 million people who own Bitcoin, and this is the supply. That's the current amount of circulating Bitcoin, 19,710,000. So the demand, when that increases, let's say it goes from 100 million to 200 million. The supply doesn't change. And so you got a factor of 5 here, and then it doubles. You got a factor of 10. And then all of a sudden, 1 billion people, there's a billion people who want Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden it jumps to 50x. So you can kind of see this and how this all works. as all of these drivers of demand increase and it keeps going up and up and up, that supply number does not change, cannot be changed, which is different than any other asset. Because if this was gold and all of a sudden the demand for gold doubled, we went from 100 million people holding gold to 200 million people holding gold, what would they do there? This supply would go up. So they would increase, probably the average is 2% per year inflation in gold. Let's say they go 10%. So that all of a sudden this jumps to 21 million supply. And you're going to see that multiplier there go down. Oh, that's not right. 21 million. So that went from 10x to 9x just because they were able to increase the supply there. And so for people who aren't overly familiar with how the supply and the economics of this thing works, it's pretty incredible. And it's the one asset there where the supply, no matter what you do with it, no matter how much demand there is for it, no matter how many factors are involved there, that supply, that bottom number cannot change. And you just have to ask yourself logically this question. Because for the last couple of months, we've seen Bitcoin kind of go from 70,000 down to 65,000 up to 67. It's kind of been bouncing around. And it seems like people are kind of getting annoyed at that, self-included. But the point of this whole discussion today over the supply and demand of Bitcoin is that just give it time. The price can only move. See, Arnie. Oh. The price can only move one direction here. And once you understand that the price can only move in one direction here in the long term, then these ups and downs won't bug you too much. And the point of this whole show and showing up every day is to gain people's conviction on Bitcoin. Because when the price runs up to 200,000 and then 2 million and then 200 million per Bitcoin, there's going to be a lot of people who are tempted to sell their Bitcoin. And I think that the worst thing you can do is go back to that fiat world and exchange the greatest asset that's ever existed in history before for one that they can create out of nothing. So just keep that in mind there. No matter how much demand there is in Bitcoin, the supply cannot change. And so if you ask yourself that question, like over the next 10 years, do you ever see the demand going down? Because we have the people who are here in Bitcoin right now. We had that whole list of things that are going to drive demand up. But ask yourself the question, do you ever anticipate any scenario here where the net demand goes down? Because for me personally, and there's a lot of people like me out there, but I'm never going back to that old world. They could do whatever they want. They could run the price down to $5,000 per Bitcoin, $5 per Bitcoin. I'm never going back to that old fiat system. And I know that there's a lot of people out there just like me. And so if you think about that, the people who are already here right now that have drove the demand to get to this point, there's not much that could happen and that would change their mind and they sell their Bitcoin. The demand for them goes down. There's just no scenarios where that happens. And then at the same time, so do you ever see the demand going down? Is it possible? And the second part there is, do you ever see the supply going up? Is it possible that the supply of Bitcoin can be changed to go up? So with that, that's why I call it the greatest economic recipe in history, because there's nowhere else we can go from this point. The only thing we need here is time. And just going back to Harvey here, if you understand that and you understand how Bitcoin's kind of repricing everything in the world right now, then you'll probably change your direction in life and focus more on trying to get Bitcoin instead of chasing fiat. Chico on the van says the new retail will go into ETFs. When they wise up, they will want self-custody. By that time, there won't be any Bitcoin left to buy. I couldn't agree more with that theory, my friend. I could not agree more with that theory. And that's something that, the cool thing about this is that there's going to be a bunch of new people who are buying I saw that 80% of the new ETFs were actually purchased by retail, self-directed, I guess you'd say, not retail, but self-directed accounts. And so there is demand out there. People are starting to say, okay, well, I actually don't have to learn how to hold this Bitcoin yet. I don't have to go through the whole 200 hours on YouTube. I can just buy this stock. And all of a sudden they're going to start watching their stock portfolio go up because of Bitcoin. And they're going to say, and then they're going to hear different things. They're going to start paying closer attention to Bitcoin. They might start watching the Bitcoin journey, and they're going to hear that the Bitcoin that they have in the ETF isn't actually theirs. And then their mind opens up a little bit more, and then they go into the self-custody route. And then they open up a Bitcoin Well account. And then they learn how to download a wallet and how to send Bitcoin. And it's a whole progression there that takes a lot of time for people. It's very easy to sit here as a Bitcoiner and just think about how easy things are for you right now. But the average person out there, they're not even close to that level yet. And so as they move from the ETFs into self-custody, the available supply of Bitcoin continues to shrink. And not only is that supply amount unchanged, what if it starts going down? What if more coins are lost? What if more people decide that they want to actually take self-custody of their Bitcoin versus holding it in an ETF? That available supply continues to go down. So the demand will continue to rise and the supply cannot increase, but it might go down. And so when you really understand that equation there, that supply and demand portion of Bitcoin, I think that really changes the way you'll do everything in life. I really believe that. Okay, let's catch it up on some Zap.stream stuff. I see the grinder has zapped 1,000 sats. Thank you, my friend. We got some heavy paninis here that we're going to be able to buy in Venice. So I appreciate that, everybody. Big one from Crypto Heathen today, from Mav and from the grinder, and a few other ones as well. Crypto Heathen says, yeah, sorry, I missed a couple here. Mav says, in caps, got to run, keep your head down, and stack the sats. Thanks, buddy. And Craig says, as Sailor says, Bitcoin thrives on chaos. Absolutely. Absolutely. That increases the demand. The chaos goes up, the demand for Bitcoin goes up. And do you think there's going to be less chaos or more chaos in the next 5 or 10 years here in the world? This whole show, it's the Bitcoin journey, actionable and logical discussion for Bitcoiners and future Bitcoiners. It's going to get pretty chaotic here, and Bitcoin thrives in chaos. Crypto Ethan says, the only things I can think of would be a big EMP attack or some large-scale Y2K type fear-mongering psyop. Yeah, that could happen. But if you understand that, and that's something that, you know, the overall demand for Bitcoin could go down. People like us, you know, if there's an EMP attack tomorrow, I have my Bitcoin in cold storage. It's offline. And so whenever everything came back on, the EMP days are over, we can all leave our house again for 2 weeks to slow down the EMP spread. But I'll still have my Bitcoin. The demand for Bitcoin would have went down a little bit. People would be a little bit more fearful, I think, to get into it. But you're not going to lose your Bitcoin through an EMP attack. If you have it stored properly, that Bitcoin's going to be there when things come back on. What else? Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is that if something like that does happen and we end up in a doomsday type scenario, Mad Max, then I think we're going to have bigger problems to worry about than our currencies at that time. You're going to want food, water, and some lead. Bitcoin's not going to do anything, and silver's not going to do anything. And especially your ETF in Bitcoin won't do anything with it. Grinder says, what's awkward is seeing the ETFs picking up 5% of the supply, yet Bitcoin keeps dipping. How is that for supply versus demand? Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. If you actually took a deeper dive into these calculations in terms of the supply and demand, you'd see the demand is going up. That number's going up. But the supply itself there, it's actually just it's staying the same. And it's a lot of that Bitcoin moved from Grayscale. And what was the other one that it's been moving out of? Grayscale mostly. And so when Grayscale runs out of Bitcoin, that's when this whole thing's going to really accelerate. But you also have to keep in mind here that you talk about the price hasn't moved yet. It keeps dipping. Because these ETFs, these big institutions, the big boys here, they're not going on to Bitcoin Well, throwing a couple of coins in the wishing well and buying Bitcoin on there. Those are the transactions that affect the exchange rate, the 65,000 US dollars. People like you and me who are doing that, that's what moves it up and down. But the ETF, the big institutions, they're not buying it on the exchanges. So Grayscale could sell their Bitcoin to BlackRock over the counter themselves. They call each other up and say, hey, Grayscale, we want to buy 100 Bitcoin from you. This is the price we're willing to pay. Perfect. We'll do it. It doesn't touch the exchanges. So that has no impact on the price up or down of Bitcoin. But there will come a time where if you keep going further down that road, there will come a time where that supply from Grayscale dries up and they won't be able to keep doing that. And then there will only be a small amount of Bitcoin left on the exchanges. And when that happens, and there's all this retail trying to buy it too, that's when the price will have no choice but to explode. So they can get away with this kind of going around for a while and doing things to try to keep the price down for a while. And the reason they're doing it is because they want to keep people's eyes off of Bitcoin. If everybody decides tomorrow that they want to buy Bitcoin and that 100 million went to 2 billion, that's what the price would do. That's what would happen there. And that's why they want to keep the price of Bitcoin down, is to keep the demand down for it. So if we change that to 100 million today, if we change that to be 2 billion people, all of a sudden want Bitcoin because the price is running up, it's 100x. That's what the price would do. This is the price, the multiplier of the price. And the crazy thing about that too is that if you factor in, I think they call it the multiplier effect, but as the supply actually gets lower and lower, that multiplier goes higher and higher. So it's pretty crazy time that we're living through right now. You just gotta have some patience and understanding and conviction. Twiggy escapes. Look at this. This is beautiful. Look at Arnie. He might be dead. Arnie. You okay? Twiggy Escape says, I'm 58. Just sold all my pensions. Bought as much Bitcoin as I can. Great channel. Listen daily. ATB. What is AT? Attaboy? Anyways, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Thanks for the comment and great work. Sold all my pensions. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? As Michael Saylor said in his presentation, only buy Bitcoin with the money that you can't afford to lose. Much different. You reach out to your financial advisor, they'd probably tell you, yeah, Bitcoin, it's been going up a little bit. Only invest the amount of money that you're okay with to losing. We're under attack. But they would say only invest the amount of money that you're comfortable losing. Michael Saylor flips that on its head and says only invest Bitcoin in the money that you can't afford to lose. Oh, ATB means all the best. Gotcha. I like Attaboy though better. We're going to go with Attaboy. Because everything else is going to zero against Bitcoin. Everything else is going to zero against Bitcoin. Your pension, your rental house, your Ethereum. And if you have a chance to watch Jack Mahler's presentation from Bitcoin Prague, BTC Prague, watch that. You watch those two presentations back to back, Michael Saylor, 21 Rules of Bitcoin, and Jack Mahler's No Second Best. You get a full picture of exactly what's happening here. You get the demand portion of it and why Bitcoin actually works in terms of the proof of stake protocol and how we got to this point and why it's so different than any other asset. That's fucking annoying. All right. Sorry, I'm missing some chats here in the Zap.stream. Yeah, that's an EMP alarm background. We're under attack. Okay. So I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know if we're going to do a show tomorrow or not. Maybe. We might just do a Q&A because tomorrow is going to be the last day for sure. I might not do a show tomorrow. But if I know me, we'll probably do a show, even if it's going to create a whole bunch of stress and make the first part of our trip a nightmare. We'll probably do the show tomorrow. So I very much appreciate all the zaps here today in the Zap.stream. When I get back from the trip, things are going to look a little bit differently here on the show. We're going to have a little bit different structure in terms of the amount of time on YouTube, the amount of time on Zap.stream. The good news is, though, if you do want to watch the full show, you're going to be able to do it for free. I'm not going to make people pay just to see it. If they want to support the show, great. But we're going to have an option for people who aren't in the community there. So you're going to be able to watch it for free regardless. But what I would say is that take some time today. Three things for today. This is where we're going to end things today. 3 things. Number 1, if you've been watching the shows live but haven't been in the comments because you're shy, whatever, shoot me an email. Or if you watch it recorded version, you can't make the live show every morning. If you watch the recorded version, or if you listen to it on Fountain or Spotify, shoot me an email, 88sats@proton.me. I'll try to respond sometimes when I'm in the airport or whatever during the trip. But just let me know where you're from, what you're most excited about in Bitcoin, and what you want to hear more of on this show. What segments you like, what you want to dive further into, all that. Number 2, let's do the show a big favor today. We got our new sponsor, Bitcoin Well. Let's have as many people just go sign up for an account today. So go to bitcoinwell.com/Jor, sign up for an account, get your 5 free wishes, buy like $100 worth of Bitcoin, and let's just support Bitcoin Well for supporting this community here. If you're in Canada or in the US, bitcoinwell.com/Jor. And the third one here is that check out Zap.stream. You can go there right after the show today. Check out Zap.stream. Just type that into your browser, Zap.stream. Set up a profile on there. You're going to need it. Well, you might need it. If you want to watch the full shows, you're going to need it. So with that, that's your 3 things for today. Bitcoin Boomer says, buy the dip. I placed limit orders when the price was falling on June 14th, 65. And the last filled yesterday, placed another 64,750. Riding the train all the way down. That's a great analogy to end with today. Riding the train all the way down. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but I got a haircut yesterday. She didn't take much off, but I got a haircut yesterday. I shaved, washed my hat. I'm a brand new man. But I think it was Michael Saylor. He wasn't him. Anyway, somebody called Bitcoin a freight train that cannot be stopped. And this is how I like to think about the Bitcoin train, is that this thing's moving. Every 10 minutes, there's a new block that's mined, a new Bitcoiner created. And that's very annoying. But every 10 minutes that happens. So the train's going to keep going. Every 10 minutes, a new copy of the blockchain, the updated ledger gets broadcast to every single person running a node. The train keeps going. It's not stopping. It's just continuously going. And as all that demand piles on, every time there's a new company who starts buying Bitcoin, every time there's a new state pension fund who starts buying Bitcoin, even if there's somebody watching the show today, signs up for a Bitcoin Well account, buys some Bitcoin, that's adding to the demand of Bitcoin. And the more people, the more demand you load onto that train, the harder it becomes to stop. The heavier the train, the harder it is to stop. So all these things, every person piling on here into Bitcoin, onto the Bitcoin train, makes it impossible to stop. And so we're going to get to a point where it's just going to keep going the same pace, but there's just going to be more and more people on there, which is going to be impossible to stop. So that's where we are today. The Bitcoin train is chugging right along. Thanks everybody for showing up today. It's good to see you. We'll probably see you here tomorrow, though I can't make any promises. But once again, I appreciate you all very much for being here. And I look forward to hearing from some of you who I haven't heard from yet on the show. So have a great hump day. Try to get a hump in if you can, at least one. And we'll see you right back here, hopefully tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.